It's 11 p.m. You're lying in bed, scrolling a phone that holds the entire internet in your palm. And out of nowhere, a video plays a sound you haven't heard in 20 years, the screech and hiss of a dial-up modem connecting. Before you can even think about it, your chest tightens, something stings behind your eyes, a wave of something you can't quite name floods in, and for half a second, you'd give almost anything to be back there. Most people will tell you that's just nostalgia. They'll say you're getting older, that everyone romanticizes their childhood, that you should log off and move on. But the truth is, what you're feeling isn't simple nostalgia. It's deeper and stranger than that. The sense that you were born on the seam between two completely different worlds, and you never got to fully live in either one. If you've ever felt like you're carrying memories from a place that doesn't exist anymore, like a tourist in the very decade you're living in, then this video is for you. Welcome back. Today we're stepping into the psychology of why 90s kids feel like they were born in the wrong decade, and why that ache, as much as it hurts, might be pointing at something you've completely misunderstood about yourself. To understand this, you have to drop the idea that you just miss being a kid. Everyone misses being a kid. What 90s kids describe is different. It's the feeling of belonging to a world that got switched off. Think about what actually happened to you. You grew up fully analog. You memorized phone numbers by heart. You waited a week to find out if the photos on the disposable camera even came out. You knocked on a friend's door with no way of knowing if they were home. You heard a busy signal and just accepted it. Boredom was a place you lived in for whole afternoons. And then, somewhere in your teens or early 20s, the entire operating system of human life got swapped out from under you. The world moved online, and it never came back. Anthropologists have a word for this in-between state: liminality. A liminal space is a threshold, a doorway between two rooms. You've left the first room, but you're not fully in the second. It's designed to be temporary. You're supposed to walk through it. But 90s kids never walked through. They got stuck standing in the doorway. You're the last generation to remember the analog world with an adult's clarity, and the first to be shoved into the digital one. You're fluent in both, and native to neither. That's not nostalgia. That's a real psychological position, a permanent translator between two worlds that stop speaking the same language. But the memory part is only the surface. Underneath it is something that makes this cut far deeper. There's a well-documented effect in memory research called the reminiscence bump. The memories that feel the most vivid, the most you, for the rest of your life are the ones you form roughly between the ages of 10 and 30. That's the window where your identity gets built, and your brain saves those years in the highest resolution it will ever use. Now do the math for a 90s kid. The exact years your brain chose to burn into permanent memory, the songs, the smells, the Saturday morning cartoons, the blue glow of a CRT television humming in a dark room, all of it belongs to a world that's been demolished. Other generations can drive back to the scenes of their childhood. Most of it still stands. Yours got bulldozed. The arcade is a phone store now. Blockbuster is gone. The slow, weird, hopeful early internet you grew up on was paved over by something faster and colder. So you're not just remembering your childhood. You're homesick for a country that's been wiped off the map. And here's the layer almost nobody talks about, because this one isn't about memory at all. It's about a promise. 90s kids were handed a very specific story about how life would work. Study hard, get the degree, and a stable career and a home of your own would be waiting on the other side. Your parents believed it because for them, it had mostly been true. You grew up clutching the last edition of a rule book that was about to be thrown in the trash. And then you graduated straight into the long hangover of a financial crash, an economy that never quite recovered in time for you. Careers chopped into gigs, a home of your own drifting quietly out of reach. And instead of anyone admitting the rules had changed mid-game, you were told it was your fault, that you just hadn't tried hard enough. That's why this feeling isn't only wistful, it's disoriented. Part of you is still standing at the starting line, waiting for the real version of adulthood to begin. You keep sensing it's just around the next corner, and you can't understand why it never quite arrives. It never arrives because the world that was supposed to deliver it stopped existing while you were still doing your homework. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. If you belong to a world that's gone, and the world you actually live in feels foreign, then where exactly do you belong? Nowhere? Are you supposed to just grieve a decade for the rest of your life? No. And this is the part nearly every 90s kid gets wrong about themselves. You've been treating this feeling as a wound, proof that you're stuck, sentimental, too soft to move on. But step back and look at what you actually are. You're one of the only generations alive who can genuinely function in two completely different realities. You know how to be alone without a screen, because 1,000 boring afternoons trained you for it. You know how to be fully present, because you grew up before everything on Earth was engineered to steal your attention. And you also move through the digital world fluently, because you're the one who helped build the bridge into it. That homesick ache isn't evidence that you're broken. It's evidence that you remember something the rest of the world is in danger of forgetting. So what do you actually do with this? First, stop pathologizing the feeling. The ache isn't a malfunction. It's the receipt for living through one of the fastest cultural transformations in human history. Let it be exactly what it is. You're allowed to miss it. Second, stop trying to climb back in. Rebuying the old toys, binge-watching everything from back then, scrolling nostalgia accounts at midnight. It feels like relief, but it's quicksand. You're trying to move back into a room that no longer exists, and every visit leaves you a little emptier. Honor where you came from. Don't try to live there. Third, and this is the real shift, take what that world gave you and pour it into this one. You learned how to wait, how to be bored, how to sit across from another human being with nothing between you. Those are nearly extinct skills now, and they're worth more than ever. Be the person at the table who isn't reaching for their phone. Be the friend who actually shows up at the door. You're not a relic of a dead decade. You're carrying something the present is starving for. The feeling of being born in the wrong decade was never really about the wrong decade. It was about being handed two entire worlds, and never being told that carrying both was a gift, not a burden. If you saw yourself in today's story, hit subscribe so we can keep decoding these hidden corners of the mind together. And if there's a fellow 90s kid in your life who's never been able to put this feeling into words, send this to them. Sometimes the most healing thing is realizing you were never the only one standing in that doorway. Tell me in the comments, what's the one thing from that world you'd go back to if you could, just for a day? I'll be reading. Take care, and I'll see you next time.